Hi there, today I will be presenting on the PBLs in Algebra 1, specifically a statistics course. The first part I will talk about is problem-based learning in math. So usually this includes a single subject focus and usually one or two learning targets that students will work on. It's a shorter time frame and students will follow more outlined steps from their teacher. Students will conclude with some sort of organized product, but it may not be a full-blown detailed presentation. Specifically in a statistics chapter, problem-based learning may look something like this. So students would have learned from their teacher some preview statistics skills like mean, median, and mode. So they are able to apply some of these vocab words needed to complete other organization methods of statistical data. The project would last for maybe, let's say, 4 class periods, and the teacher would provide example organization methods that the students could use. Box Elixir plot, histograms. The teacher would then introduce the problem, and students would then follow the steps to solve it. Students' steps may include organizing the data in a different format, so they may have learned about. Some examples are listed here. This approach could also be combined with problem solving and occasional short lectures. In Stanley's article, he mentions a successful tip of having the teacher intervene with occasional short lectures if the students seem that they are struggling or need additional assistance with whatever task or learning target they are working on. A possible proposed problem to engage the students that's a real-world scenario could be something like this. Here's a serve chart from Federer's first serves. The teacher could ask students to organize this data in a different way that makes more sense and is clear for someone who follows tennis and works with the statistical data of serving and whoever shots and how you can win more points. If students weren't as engaged in tennis, they could be presented with this problem here, which is football leagues and their position throughout the season. This looks intimidating, but those students who are involved in fantasy league games may find this very interesting, and having this organized in a different method, they could see the benefits of that, helping out themselves and any friends that participate in those outside of school activities. So this project would help students engage in active learning by working with a group and figuring out how they can organize this data. They may have to use a data software like Excel or Google Sheets and figure out how they want to do that. There would be group discussions, there would be think, pair, shares throughout the process. They would also engage in active learning during their presentation or product of the statistical data organization, like a box Elixir plot or a pie chart. By discussing with each other and with their teacher of what their data means, that would also be active learning because they're making sense of what they are learning about. The second part of this presentation is talking about project-based learning in math. This typically is a longer time frame and there's more general steps provided to students. Students would create a product to present, and this is modeled after a real-world scenario. Sometimes project-based learning can also take place of a unit, so it's a much longer time frame, more like 2 or 3 weeks versus multiple class periods. An example of a project-based learning scenario in a statistics unit could be something like this. Students are presented with 3 different types of organization. This is a box and whisker plot about female life expectancy. We have stem and leaf plot here, and a histogram about actors and number of winners. So students would be interested of the data and how they want to collect some data of their own. So the first part of this project would require students to engage in active learning and figure out what kind of data interests them and what they want to spend their time organizing. Students could also be presented with some ideas of data that they could find or collect themselves. So here's an example from Licky that students could focus on if they were feeling a little stuck or not able to think of something very creative. So some general directions that may be presented to students during a project-based learning may be this. They would have to decide on a data set and collect data. So I just showed the possible ideas that students could look at. They would have to record data using Google Sheets or Excel. This would be another part of the active learning process because students may not be specifically taught how to use these. So they would have to use their technology resources to figure it out and use their peers in discussions as well. Then they would pick 3 ways to organize their data. So this could be a box and whisker plot and some of the examples I showed previously. Then they would display their findings and summaries in a visual presentation. This would also be a majority of their active learning to figure out how to present it so it's clear and concise for those who are watching their presentation. So this project-based learning example, students would be designing a study, collecting their data using online examples, and creating a visual presentation. In Wilhelm's study, he did a STEM class of graduate level students, and he found that technology very much helped his students when working on project-based learning because they were able to research and find much more information with the technology versus Wilhelm not allowing his students to use that. During the project, the teacher would be guiding students on how to collect and format and organize their data and project and just facilitating group discussions and helping any calculations if students were struggling with the numbers and math part of the project. Problem-based and project-based can be similar but different in a math statistics course. Some similarities involve they both have a realistic proposed problem that would engage the students. They both include active learning and inquiry among the students. Both require some sort of product or presentation and students working together, think pair share scenarios and discussions to really help them defend their learning and their thoughts. The teacher would act as a facilitator in both of these formats. Some differences, though, would be the time frame of the project. Project-based learning is usually a longer time frame and may replace the unit, and it may require more of an intense presentation or product from the students. Problem-based learning usually has more descriptiveness in their steps for the students to follow and may have more directions since it's a shorter time frame for the students to work on. Thank you for listening to my presentation today, and I hope you learned some new things about the PBLs in a statistics classroom. Thank you.